Islam,
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 Islamism.
Islamism. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Moorish Sense Channel. I'm your host, Brother Brendan Jordan Hill, alongside the other hosts of the Moorish Sense Channel.
Brother Valines Bay.
Praise Allah, Islam. So we'd like to welcome you to the Moorish Sense Channel. If this is your first time tuning in, we are streaming from YouTube as well as Facebook Live. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure you like and/or comment um, on the channel. Of course, we like criticism, but we want it to be constructive criticism, nothing destructive but constructive. And constructive feedback, we're always willing to improve. So, with that being said, we're going to open up with the Moorish American prayer, and then we're going to get into our topic for this evening. Islam,
Islam, Islam.
Islam,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
the Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation.
and my salvation
By night
by night
and by day,
and by day
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Jur Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam. It's good to see some of our regulars in the chat. Brother East 49, praise Allah for your spirit. Yes, the prophet did tell us this 111 years ago. The title of this specific segment, and we've been gone for a couple of weeks. Took a little break, but it's the end of time and fulfilling of the prophecies. So, Sheik, did you want to, I guess, get into it?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that um the end of time is talking about like the end of the world, and it may be the end of the world as we know it. However, it's not the end of time. I mean,
That's right.
nobody knows the end of the world. Nobody knows the day nor the hour. Um, and so basically, what does this mean when it was said? Um, not only by the prophet but by other sages and seers.
That's right.
Because it's not a new concept, and just a little bit of investigation, you'll find out that it's been said over and over again. And people go on the spooky side thinking, oh, it's the end of the world. Well, what about those of us who had come into the Moorish Science Temple of America? We come to find out that that was the end of time and the fulfilling of a prophecy,
That's right.
because it was meant for you and I never to know that we were not Negroes, black folks, colored people, or Ethiopians. So when we found out that was the end of time, and also it was a fulfilling of the prophecy, because the prophet Noble Ali prophesied such a time that people would come into their own and wake up to who it is that they are. And so, therefore, once you proclaim your nationality, it was the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecy, because you was born again in a sense, and now you started to live a new life, right?
That's right.
Um, very much different from the life or the lifestyle that we had at one time or another in the past. You don't forget those things, or forget the things that you learn from that life, but you enhance and throw away what potentially may be bad, and keep what is good. So what was it was a parable. So if you could pull up that document.
Yeah, let's go to the document. And if you have any questions about anything we're presenting in the chat, by all means, ask your questions. Here we go.
So here, what is a parable? The parable, a favored method of religious instruction, is to be found in most of the sacred writings of the world's great religious systems. A parable is a statement of simple truth which, by analogy or symbolic extension, reveals a greater and more universal truth. Most parables have moral interpretation, inviting the man to a consideration of uh of virtue, responsibility, duty, and service. Some parables are descriptive of the condition of man, and like the emblem book of the Middle Ages, reveal the imperfections of man until human nature is united with divine nature. In certain parts of, and we want to talk a little bit about the New Testament,
That's right.
Jesus is made to teach through parables, through homely sayings about about familiar things, but the reader must not be deceived into overlooking the fact that a large part of the New Testament itself is a parable, a human statement of divine matters and the Christ. And when we talking about Christ, we talking about the crystal clear consciousness, not Jesus the Christ.
That's right.
Stands in the midst of the great, and it says Christian parable, and we know that their parables not Christian parables because they come from our ancient ancestors.
That's right.
As the pure, as the personification of the righteous man passing through the vicissitudes of life. And this is what the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies. A new era, it's a new era time now, and a new era time mean a change.
Praise the
So
Lord.
that's what that is. It's a parable.
Praise the Lord. I wanted to, and I wasn't able to pull it up, but I wanted to give a definition of time, if that's all right.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna read it. All right. So couldn't couldn't really scan it like I wanted to because it wasn't coming out straight. So if you want to know where I'm drawing from the encyclopedia, Columbia Encyclopedia, right? And I'm not going to hit on every portion of time, but I just want to make it a little clear because we hear the end of time as you stated before. But let's look at the concept of time, right? And what how individuals are governed by time. It says time is a concept that has been variously defined at different periods and different aspects. Philosophical periods of different aspects, philosophical, physical, psychological, and biological. Although no agreement has been reached on the distinction, is commonly made between measurable time and by the motion of bodies through space and duration. Unresolved problems regarding time include reality and unreality. And some people say the seen and the unseen, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's continue. So it says, give me 1 second, please. It says, however, most physicists today regard simultaneity in different moving systems as a relative to the motion of systems of the observer. So it's all based on perception of the individual. That's what's being said here. It says the
Mm-hmm.
intuitive view of time as an independent entity superseded in physics by the concept that time and space are inseparable aspects of a four-dimensional universe. Now, I'm going to go down just for the sake of time. No pun intended. It says, because of the precession of equinoxes and sidereal years is about 20 minutes longer than the solar year. Divisions of the day are arbitrarily selected in units, hours, minutes, and seconds. The setting and synchronization of mechanical timekeepers depend ultimately on observation of celestial bodies. Solar days are not a uniform length. Differences are caused by inclinations of the Earth's axis and by variations in the speed of the Earth's motions in its orbit around the sun. Let's go down a little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're going to get to the historical aspect, right? It says to lessen the inconvenience, especially to railroads resulting from local time variations, because you have three different time variations here. And we're dealing with the end of time and the fulfilling of prophecies, but I want to make clear point that you brought up, Sheikh Valans Bay, in regards to us getting out of old concepts and where certain concepts come from as it relates to time. It says to lessen the inconvenience, especially the railroads resulting from local time variations, standard time was accepted by most nations at an international conference in Washington, D.C. in 1884. Standard time is based on the mean of solar day as reckoned by the Royal Observatory of Greenwich, England. The meridian of longitude at Greenwich is accepted as the prime meridian. The Earth's 360-degree circumference is divided into 24 time belts or zones of 15 degrees of each belt differing from Greenwich time by an integral number of hours. Although theoretically the belts are delimited by the meridians of longitude. Now let's keep going. It says the continental United States falls into four standard time belts. So I apologize, not three, but four. Eastern, Central, Mountain, and Pacific. The day in these belts starts respectively at 5, 6, 7, and 8th hour later than Greenwich. It follows, therefore, a radio program originating in New York at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time will be received at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Now, the reason why I read that, not to belabor the point, is that when we're dealing with the end of time and fulfilling of the prophecies, and you look at what the prophet Obadiah has given us, specifically in chapter 48, in the previous chapter, chapter 47, the prophet makes reference to Egypt being the capital empire and the dominion of Africa. And
Hmm.
prior to Greenwich, England becoming the place of the master meridian, or the place in which we tell time in the Western world, time was focused, or the focal point, the center point, the central point of time that our ancient forefathers knew was the Pyramid of Giza. So I just wanted to make that point clear, because when you're dealing with this concept of time, the prophet is getting our minds out of a Eurocentric way of thinking. And we're going to
Hmm.
show that and demonstrate that in real time by pointing out specific points and slow walking our viewers and listeners through some of the points that the prophet makes in chapter 48. And
And
brother
I'm
and
glad.
Mark and 30, we appreciate you for tuning in. Uh, brother Antoine, appreciate you tuning in. Um, praise Allah. Praise Allah for your spirit. Thank you for tuning in.
Praise Allah.
Go
Yes.
ahead, shoot.
Oh, and I'm glad that you read that because in the previous show we talked about Greenwich, England, and the Royal Observatory.
That's
So
right.
now we see what they would call in I guess, a school. You see context clues, and not only do you see context clues, you see a reoccurring theme.
Right.
And this reoccurring theme that we see is basically leading us to truth, right? It's not just something that we making up.
Right.
The prophet left the blueprint for us to follow, excuse me, in his footsteps. And it's not really difficult, to follow. You just gotta have a clean heart and mind and good
That's right.
intentions.
That's right, shoot. All right. So with that being said, can we get into? You want to get into chapter 48?
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, let's go. So the concept that we're going to be focusing on this evening is chapter 48, the end of time and fulfilling of the prophecies. Let me zoom out just a little bit. And I'll take a little bit of the reading. Again, we're going to slow walk the viewers through. And we know that some people may be familiar with this chapter, and some may not. And it's perfectly fine if you aren't. Some of the concepts may sound foreign to you if you aren't unfamiliar. But if you are familiar, you know where we're going with this, so you may have an idea. All right, so I'll pick up on the first couple of verses. It says, the last prophet in these days is Noble Jurali, who was prepared divinely in due time by Allah to redeem men from their sinful ways and to warn them of the great wrath which is sure to come upon the earth. It says John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days. We're talking about ancient days, the previous times, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. Now I want to focus first on verse 1, because some people may say, well, what are the sinful ways? Why was a prophet sent to the Asiatics of America, the so-called Negroes, blacks, and colors of America? Well, that's a good question, right? And with that being said, we're going to go to a divine warning by the prophet for the nations, and it's a portion that I want us to focus on in page 2 of the divine warning for the prophet from the nations. I know we focused on page 1 last time when we were dealing with the concept of eugenics and
Hmm.
scientific racism, etc. But it's a portion in there, right? And you know, I understand where people are in their minds when they look at the signs of the times and how things are going right now, both national, international, etc. But we want to focus on the words of the prophet, right? Because we're focusing on that great sin, right? So the prophet said, in the previous portion, and I'm paraphrasing or somewhat summarizing it, the prophet stated that there are certain names that we just shouldn't go by,
Hmm.
because we know the names carry spirit. This is nothing spooky. This is just common knowledge. If you call somebody, and I'm not speaking radical, And I don't mean to be offensive, but if you call somebody stupid or idiot or imbecile long enough, they're going to start believing it. It's going to become
Hmm.
part of their subconscious. It's going to become part of their psyche. If you start downing a person, they're going to start taking on the attribute. Likewise, if you start speaking words of life into people, they'll start to be uplifted, right? So the prophet Noble Ali, he came speaking life into us. He said that his words are spirit and life. Every word that he speaks is spirit and life. All right. So the prophet Noble Ali, after he talks about the word Negro the word nigger alluding to the word Negro in Latin and so on and so forth, and the fact that we didn't need the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people, um, because the laws had never changed. The
Hmm.
prophet makes reference to the fact that, if there are specific principles that are carried out, then love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in the land. Now, mind you, the prophet is saying this in the early 1900s. However, a prophet is one who's letting you know who is sent by Allah with a message for a specific nation of people to warn them and forewarn them of what's going to come if they don't change the conditions in which they are living in and the mindset that they're living in as well. Right?
Hmm. And
She
you
go
make a
she
great point, right? Because um, it's almost like if you mix bleach and ammonia together, you get a chemical
Bushkin. That's
compound.
right. That's right, man.
So that's not a good chemical compound. So that's the same thing with not knowing who you are, calling yourselves things that delude to slavery. Now you start to believe in those things, and generation after generation, it has not caused us anything but harm. And now it's to a point where people are self sabotaging. And what I mean by that is basically they're not interested in hearing about, well, some people, not all, are not interested in hearing about who they are, where they come from, what the truth is about man and our connection to the creator of the universe. They just worried about, the things that they can get now, and how they can what you would call survival. And now this leads to a cycle which is very destructive, and this is what we're seeing play out. And if all humans continue on this road, yeah, it will mean the end of um, some human existence.
Right.
Maybe not all or what have you, but yeah, this is the prophet is getting us to use good common sense, because our energy here on Earth attracts certain things. When we have good thoughts, we attract certain things. When we have bad thoughts, we attract certain things. So this is a deep science, and not only is it a deep science, it's really cause and effect. Basically, is what the prophet is saying. And showing us our relationship towards the earth, the weather, the sun, the moon, and the stars, and various other things. So praise Allah.
Praise Allah. And I'm glad you said that point, Sheik, because a lot of people don't understand. We talk a lot about what we learn. Let me say it like that. We learn in school about what is it? Revising gravity, and the Earth's gravitational pull and things of that nature. But we also have that ability as well. So I'm going to pick up on page 1 and I'll pick up on page 2, which is projected. And again, if anyone has any questions in the chat about anything we're going over, please, by all means, put your question, comment, concern, etc. in the chat. So the prophet says this. He says, and I'm not reading off of what's being projected right now. I'm just reading off of page 1 at the bottom. It says, so there isn't but one supreme issue for my people to use to redeem that which was lost, and that's through the above statement. So what I mentioned previously in regards to the names and principles that delude to slavery, how we need to abstain from them things. We need to abstain from it and go back into the mindset of our forefathers, that ancient and divine creed, which is going to be
Hmm.
explained in this chapter. The prophet says, and that is through the above statements, that the lion and lamb can lie down together in yonder hills, and neither will be harmed, because love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice will be reigning in this land in those days. So he's saying those days, in those latter days, right? The United States will be one of the greatest civilized and prosperous governments of the world. But if the above principles are not carried out by the citizens of my people in this government, the worst is yet to come. And we see that happening now, and we've been seeing that happen over the course of the last past century,
Mm-hmm.
or at least as long as we've been in this form that we can remember, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the great God of the universe is not pleased with the works that are being performed in North America by my people, and this great sin must be removed from the earth, from the land, to save it from enormous earthquakes, diseases, etc. And I, the prophet, do believe that this administration of the government, being more wisely prepared by more genius citizens that believe in their free national constitution and laws, through the help of such classes of citizens, I, the prophet, truly believe that my people will find the true and divine way of their forefathers, and learn to stop serving carnal customs and merely ideas of man that have never done them any good but have always harmed them. So now we see that playing out in real time, even in things like social media. We live in a digital age. The reincarnated prophet in Savior Humanity said this electrified age, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it has the duality to the meaning. But ultimately, when we're talking about the electrified age, to one meaning, we could be talking about the speed of the science of thought, but also the fact that you're miles away, I'm miles away from each other, but we're sitting here and we're conducting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
a live stream right now. So this is
Right.
an electrified age to a degree, right? But again, duality. This is to uplift our people, and not just our people, but the Asiatic world. But on the flip side, we have uh, the same platform that we're using right now, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And when you go in there, it's a lot of what I call junk science. And what I mean by that is you have this whole dilemma of men versus women.
Mm-hmm.
You have this dilemma of certain standards and expectations of individuals. And the question that always comes to my mind when I see these things: who's supplanting these thoughts in the minds of the people? Where
Mm-hmm.
everybody's running with it. Where you have like we're really at a point now where the brothers and sisters at each other's throats. But you look
Mm-hmm.
at other nationalities of people, they're not operating and functioning in that same degree. And if they are, as you often say, Sheik, they don't do it out in the open. They do it behind closed doors.
Yeah, and that shows um that there are groups of people who perpetuate not only to us but to other nationalities of people. They promote this pop culture as something that we should be living according to and by. And basically, that is the culture here in America is pop culture.
Right.
You see people wearing man, so many different things that you see from pop culture, and if you don't participate in it, it's like you the bad guy,
Right.
right? Or you the one that got the problem. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. That's right. Carnal customs, man. Carnal customs. We all get caught up in it, but
yeah. Every once
we're
in a
not
while,
saying we're
yeah.
above it. We get caught up in it, but for me, I just sit back and I reflect and I say, where did that thought come from?
Hmm.
Why did I follow that train of thought when I was this particular age? So
Hmm.
praise Allah. I want to continue, and then we're gonna move forward. So, out of prophet, I'm hereby calling aloud with a divine plea to all true American citizens to help me remove this great sin that has been committed and being practiced by my people in the United States of America. All right, making sure everybody can see it, because they know it's not the true and divine way, and without understanding, they have fallen from the true light into utter darkness of sin. And there is not a nation on earth today that will recognize them socially, religiously, politically, or economically, etc. And that's true. You want to hit
Hmm.
on that point, Sheik?
Yeah. So when you go back to ancient times and you look at the marketplace and how the marketplace ran, even down to how people borrowed currency or whatever the case may be, there were certain rules and regulations that were in place that were fair and just to allow people to be able to do what it is that they need to do, and it didn't look like it looks today, right? And the society was more of a green and natural society. Um, you know, we used every part of an animal that we could possibly use if we were going to eat them or whatever the case may be. Um, and you look at these things today, people will pretty much, everybody chasing a bag, right? And that's nothing wrong with that. But
You know,
when you really get down to it and you look at the essence of what the bag consists of, um, they um, money is not even backed by gold right now.
that's right.
But yet and
It is.
still, it's the standard.
Right.
You and I still have to work for it and do the things that we need to do. But whoever set this standard, now people to get it, they kill their brother, mother, sister. You see all the atrocities. That's not saying money is bad because it's not.
Right.
But we're talking about the behaviors that people will participate in to get it, and not worry about the consequences that come with what they did to get it. And all my point is that it's based on a concept that's not even, it's made out of thin air. And basically now a lot of people don't even carry cash.
I was about to say that we moving from a cash society to a cashless society.
Right?
Come
So
on, man.
it's like these are interesting thought processes of, in everyday life when you sitting around and you work, or you go and you purchase something and you like, hold up.
I even had money to spend.
Man, I went to a store one time,
Right.
right? Then
Right.
I'm gonna let you go ahead. I went to a store
Yeah.
and they were like, we out of coins. And I'm like, what? You out of coins? And it was amazing to me. But I had a few coins and they were like, oh, thank you.
Hmm.
Um I think I had like $3 in quarters where I was able to, I think it was Family Dollar. I was getting a snack or something out of there.
Hmm.
And yeah, it was wild. I'm like, how but people don't use um money like that, any longer. It's everything is like electronic payment, Apple Pay, all those various other forms of payment. Hmm.
Praise the Lord. I got a point to that one because I knew it had to be a dollar store. Brother
Uh-huh.
Adrian Johnson, we want to help you with your inquiry in the chat, so no problem with that. And to my brother Glenn Williams from Houston, Walaikum Salam. I owe you a call, man. So
Yeah.
I'll be reaching out to
Alhamdulillah.
you soon, man. I'll be reaching out to you soon. Um, so yeah, my wife, she made mention of that dollar store demonstration, right? And what
Hmm.
she said was she was talking to cashier one time, and we're gonna get back to the point. She
Hmm.
said that they don't give out cash or exact change because if they come up $1 short or a few cents short, then they get terminated. So
Oh
that shows you
wow.
how that shows you how cutthroat the society we live in is, man. And that goes back to what we're saying in regards to the conditions of carnal customs and things of that nature. Where if you come up a few cents short, you lose, and for most people, their livelihood. So that's
Hmm.
unfortunate,
Hmm.
But let's keep going, right? So the prophet makes four references to social, religious, political, and economic issues, and the fact that our people won't be recognized because they're finding themselves in a specific condition. So let's keep going. The prophet says, in their present condition and their endeavorment in which they themselves try to force upon the civilized world, they will not refrain from their sinful ways and actions and deeds that have brought Jim Crowism, segregation, and everything that brings harm to human beings on earth. So the prophet is saying ultimately, and I've heard my great grandmother say this when she was in the physical form. She said, grew up in the South, and she said that integration was one of the worst things that happened to our people.
Mm.
And I heard that from a couple of my elders
Hmm.
as I came up. Not necessarily based on the conditions and things that they had to experience growing up in a segregated society, But the fact that, the Asiatics of America, here in North America, we had our own schools, we had our own businesses, we had our own
Hmm.
hospitals, we had our own communities, we had doctors, etc. Doctors,
Bus
teachers,
companies, cab companies.
yeah, everything here, Mo. But the thing is, again, going back to the prophet, though we had those things, one thing that we were lacking was the fact that we didn't know our nationality and we didn't
Hmm.
know our true race. So the prophet Noble Ali, he's letting us know. We're gonna get to the forerunner in a minute. But let's keep going. So the prophet says, and they fought the southerner, meaning our forefathers, for all these great misuses. But I traveled in the south, and I have examined the conditions there, and it is the works of my people continuously practicing the things which bring dishonor, disgrace, and disrespect to any nation that lives the life. And I am hereby calling on all true American citizens for moral support and finance to help me in my great missionary work to bring my people out of darkness into marvelous light from the prophet.
Hmm.
All right.
Man, interesting, right?
Yeah.
And, and a lot of the, you know, of course, we come from two eras of hip hop, if you will, right?
Right.
Or what we call hip hop.
That's right.
And you probably were on the tail end of like some of the
Yeah.
backpack rappers, with the leather medallions, and we had like brand Nubians
That was before I was my generation was more, yeah, I guess you could say it, but like we had like the Lupes and
yeah,
yeah,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So you know, you start to see, okay, yeah, I was in high school, and you start to see a change where, and no, I like a couple of Southern hip hop artists.
hmm yep,
I don't agree with their lyrics and stuff like that, but you start to hear this popping pills and you
drinking
know,
man,
yeah, stuff like that.
right,
Um, and it crept its way into it, and now you have our children and various other children utilizing um, these particular things, and it's trickled over to the European nations as well. And let me
not
tell
just
you,
a
that I
southern
was,
issue anymore either. It's a global issue.
yeah, it's glow. Um, I was in a dollar store, and once again, I think I think I was, hold it, was it? Yeah, I think I was buying like some household supplies, right?
Yeah,
And I hear a voice, and I'm hearing saying, he's using the N word, and I happened to, because I was in one aisle and I heard it come from the other aisle, so I just was curious, and I walked around the aisle, and it was two Europeans calling each other niggas, and I'm like, I shook my head
right.
like,
That's what. Yeah, that's all. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So it's like, this problem has, trickled over into other groups or nationalities of people, right?
yeah.
And
You're a KRS-One fan, right? She.
oh yeah, man,
That's what he
yeah,
said. That's what he said in MCs act like they don't know. He
yeah,
said now we got I'm gonna say European kids calling themselves
self niggas, you're right.
exactly. Yep.
It's like, so you see this stuff coming to fruition, and you like, hold up, right?
That's right.
Like, yeah, so um, yeah, just that was that's a point um in itself. It's just the prophet was right on time,
That's
and,
right.
and people, because they have this Eurocentric Christian type of, not saying we're not saying that Christians are bad,
Nah.
but the mindset that it has produced is like, um when we hit the end of time, or you gonna get your just due, or things of that nature, people
Take it for the
turn
worst,
to the
man.
spooky side. But
Right.
listen, it's cause and effect, because we do certain things, the effect will come. It's these are like the universal principles, law of karma, and in the sacred text, in the religious text, is codified, so to speak. right?
That's
Some
right.
of it is plain, like plain flat out. You can see it, but some of it is codified, right? For whatever reason. But praise Allah.
Praise the Lord. All right. So we're going to go to the next verse. Again, we slow walking you through. So picking up on verse 2 and then 3. It says, John the Baptist was the forerunner of Jesus in those days. So we're talking about Jesus of Nazareth again, the prophet Isa, to warn and stir up the nation and prepare them to receive the divine creed, which was to be taught by Jesus. In these modern days, there came a forerunner who was divinely prepared by the great God Allah, and his name is Marcus Garvey, who did teach and warn the nations of the earth to prepare to meet the coming prophet, who was to bring the true and divine creed of Islam, and his name is Noble Drew Ali, who was prepared and sent to this earth by Allah to teach the old time religion and the everlasting gospel to the sons of men, that every nation shall and must worship under their own vine and fig tree, and return to their own and be one with their Father, God Allah. Islam.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I wanted to project a picture, an image of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Mosiah really is Garvey. And then after that, I wanted to get into a section in a book. Marcus Garvey didn't write the book, but a brother by the name of Rupert Lewis wrote the book, and it's
Mm-hmm.
called Marcus Garvey, Anti-Colonial Champion. It's a portion of that I found really interesting. It's a book that I've read a few times over, and I just wanted to share with our viewers. But if again, most people know of Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, the forerunner. But if you don't know Marcus Garvey, this is Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, John the Baptist in his era of time, founder of the UNIA, forerunner to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, born in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. St.
Mm-hmm.
Ann's Bay, Jamaica. I believe there's a couple of individuals who were born in St. Ann's Bay. I know the reggae artist Burning Spears one. I
Okay.
think Bob Marley was born. Yeah, Bob Marley's born in St. Ann's Bay too. So that's just a connection,
Mm-hmm.
showing you that there's a revolutionary spirit down there between those Asiatics and Jamaica. But let's get into the document that I wanted to share with Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey. All right, page 1. Here we go. So it's interesting because when you read this extensive um, outline of Brother Marcus Garvey, the forerunner, you'll find that Marcus Garvey was involved in many different political factions while in Jamaica,
Mm-hmm.
but he also made a lot of alliances throughout the Asiatic world, and he also made alliances with individuals who were Europeans likewise. But
Mm-hmm.
I want to focus on this aspect of Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and I'm gonna go down just a little bit, and it's going to start where it says in 1912. All right, so let's go up real quick. So it says, all right, we can go down. It says Garvey in 1912 was not, of course, the Garvey of 1928. So those are important years because we know and understand that the Moorish Science Temple of America was founded in 1913 AD.
Mm-hmm.
But 1928 also has a significant, and it has a significant meaning for us as Moorish Americans and members of the Moorish Science Temple of America likewise.
Mm-hmm.
The Garvey of 1928, who had the rich political experience as a leader of a mass movement with international organization. In real sense, Garvey, during his first London years, had not developed past the Booker T. Washington type of reformism because that's what he looked up to. He
Mm-hmm.
looked up to Washington at one point in time, right? Despite the influence of love and work in the National Club, so that was one of the organizations he was a part of at that
Mm-hmm.
time. At the time, the ideas which he was later to develop were expressed in discussions with other people and articles that he wrote. These were lean years for Garvey. His only surviving sister, Indiana, had paid his passage to England, so he went to England,
Mm-hmm.
and she helped him during his stay, as as she herself then lived there. He worked around the docks of London, Cardiff, and Liverpool, and gained a wealth of information about African and West Indian seamen. Now, if you know anything about John the Baptist in the times of Jesus of Nazareth, he went amongst the people. He strove and he worked amongst the people, and he
Mm-hmm.
learned the ways of the people, and he brought the people in to a new way or a new idea or a new way of thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the same thing that the forerunner was doing during that time. And then the prophet Noble Drew Ali, being Jesus of Nazareth in this era time, he fulfilled the works of that time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. And this footnote is from Jaquays Garvey. All right. Amy Jaquez Garvey, his wife, his experience as I'm gonna say Asiatic, as an Asiatic working man in England, his academic interests, which have been described as law and philosophy, and his relationship with the Egyptian journalist Deuce Muhammad Ali made him more aware of the common problems faced by millions of colonials. Because when
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with the issue at hand, and why nationalism was such a big issue during our time, the majority of the Asiatic world was under colonial rule by way of the European nations. So this wasn't just an issue that was happening on the continent of Africa. This wasn't just an issue that was happening in that part of Asia, which is
Mm-hmm.
connected to the continent of Africa now. The Europeans call the Middle East, or even Far East Asia, or
India,
even
right? Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
right, or even here in the United States. Because believe it or not, we've gone under and we were subjected to colonialism as well to a degree, and also our brothers and sisters in South and Central America as well, and in
Mm-hmm.
Canada, right? While he worked on the African Times in Orient. So I'm gonna show you what that is in a minute.
Yeah.
Give me a second.
The African Times and the Orient Review.
And we're gonna
Deuce
get the
Muhammad
brother Deuce
Ali,
Muhammad
man.
Ali in a minute so you can see the man if
Yeah.
you haven't seen him.
He was serious, man.
Serious.
He was a playwright.
That's right.
Um, he was a social worker.
That's right.
And also the record reflects that he was one of the first individuals to call out people Asiatics,
Right.
and he did so in this African Times and the Orient Review.
And that was
And
his public work.
he was a great proponent against colonialism.
That's right.
Hmm.
Praise Allah. Review published by Ali. So we're talking about Deuce Muhammad Ali now, or
Hmm.
Muhammad Ali. The later had made a reputation for himself with his publication in the book In the Lands of Pharaoh. So that was Deuce
Lands of Pharaoh. Hmm.
Muhammad Ali's book, reputedly the first history of Egypt written by an Egyptian in a work that was critically received. Hill A 41 footnote. Deuce Muhammad Ali later served as foreign affairs editor for the Negro World newspaper.
Hmm.
The African Times and Orient Review first appeared in July 1912 as a monthly journal and ceased publication in 1919. Its main interest was said to have been West Africa. In fact, it was saved from going out of print during an early period of financial difficulties by a group of West African nationalists, among them Casely Hayford. Mohammed, who attended the first Universal Racist Congress,
Mm.
also attended by W. E. Du Bois, who was on the other side, but it's good to know that too. In London, 1911, outlined the direction he hoped to pursue in the following way, and this is Deuce Muhammad Ali. He said the recent Universal Race Congress clearly demonstrated that there was ample need for a pan-Oriental, pan-African journal that would lay the aims, desires, and intentions of, and of course, during that time they were using the, I guess you could say, the quote-unquote color race system.
Hmm.
So he identified people as black, brown, yellow, so on and so forth, within and without the empire. So the empire he's talking about was the British Empire at that time. All right. But right here too, he says, although the journal focused on West Africa, it concerned itself with the developments in the German colonies in Africa, Egypt, Morocco, and the West Indies, so-called Afro Americans in the U.S., Japan, China, Persia, and Turkey. And it's a chapter in our Quran that's called "The Divine Origins of the Asiatic Nations," and some of those countries that were listed and some of the people who were listed at that time, they belong to those divine origins of those Asiatic nations. Now,
Hmm.
this is an image of Brother Deuce Muhammad Ali, and you can speak to him if you like. He's coming up now.
Yeah. um, and man, he, if you notice the name Ali, right,
Mm-hmm.
which could turn into a whole nother show. But when you look at this man and you see some of the works that he did, uh, and some of the people that he was around, um, and he came back to America as well, and he spent a whole lot of time in Detroit. And as a result of him spending a lot of time in Detroit, currently to this day there is a heavy Muslim or Muslim population.
That's right.
And just like I said, a playwright, social worker. He actually they did a lot of lectures in England at King's College. Him and Marcus Garvey, and you know, he was instrumental as well as introducing some things because if we consider John the Baptist um, as Marcus Garvey, then who is Deuce Muhammad Ali to the prophet?
Right. That's right.
And yeah, it's and it's a great it's a great journey to go on, especially also when you look at the Universal Racist Congress and a
Mhm.
few other people who were there, and then there are a couple of other uh, things that occurred as well, like the World Parliament of Religions, which happened in Chicago, right?
That's right.
Um, and a few other individuals. Maybe we'll do a show on if the European is helping me, why not you?
That's a good. Yeah,
Right.
we can
Yeah.
do that. Yeah.
We'll do that one day. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was instrumental, and they try to discredit him because they say he plagiarized this book in the land of the pharaohs. But um I wonder about that as well. But
Right.
that's the little bit that I do know about Deuce Muhammad Ali.
Praise the Lord.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Let's continue, and then we'll finish and wrap the chapter up. All right. Give me 1 second. How's everybody doing in the chat? I see that we have a few comments. Brother East 49 said, I found out that there are actual pictures of him and Noble Drew Ali, Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali together.
Yeah. Um.
I'd like to see
I
those.
I I think I've now. It was a picture.
Yeah, I
Well, a
remember
few
that.
pictures, right?
Mhm.
But I've heard different things because one of the pictures was in this book one time, and when I read the caption of the picture, the individual favors the prophet Noble Drew Ali,
Right,
but
right.
it wasn't him, and that's Marcus Garvey. It's one where Marcus Garvey is sitting in a T model, and it's a brother
It's next to him.
standing on the side.
Mhm.
And when I read the names on the picture, that it wasn't the prophet, but I'm not saying that it's not so. It may be some other ones, but um, and if anybody has pictures, articles and stuff like that, please let us know, and or send us copies of it so that we can see those things, because we're not saying that we know it all, but
Right.
we just our investigations that we do. And then there was another one that
He was walking down the street.
yeah, that's
That's the
that's
one I
another
see.
one.
Yeah, that's
And
the one I seen.
that is reported to be not the prophet as well. And then
Right.
there's another one where they try to justify that he try to make it seem like the prophet was Masonic, and
Yeah.
they say this is Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali.
That was a
And
good one, man.
when you really get into the essence, Marcus Garvey had his own order. He was
Right.
not, yeah, he had his own order, and I won't mention it right now until we further develop on that on the subject. But yeah, from what I understand, he had developed his own order, and they even had they had regalia.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
wasn't what most people think. Hmm.
Islam. That's right.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. All right. Let's continue to go. So, no, it's okay. It's all good, brother.
Yeah, yeah. It's all we.
And see,
Nobody.
yeah,
This is a learning. This is a learning
experience.
experience and
And
environment.
that's
Yeah,
right.
we want everybody to feel comfortable
That's
and
right.
open. Yeah, we just sharing some of our experience and research, and
Yeah,
Yeah. So we want
it's yet to be verified. Let's say
yeah,
it
it's
like
and
that.
it's yet to be verified. Right,
That's
right.
right. So it's
Praise the Lord. Thank
praise the Lord. No, all is good. Sheik, all is well. So verse 4: the Moorish Science Temple of America is a lawfully chartered and incorporated organization. Any subordinate temple that desires to receive a charter, the prophet has them to issue to every state throughout the United States, etc., that the world may hear and know the truth that among the descendants of Africa there is still much wisdom to be learned in these days for the redemption of the sons of men under love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So I'm going to post a picture, the image. The image is actually um, surrounding me, but I'm going to post it so everyone can see it and we can speak to it because the prophet said that he has a charter to issue to each state throughout the United States. And the image that I'm posting is this image right here.
you.
So what you have in front of you, and I said 1928 is a very significant year a few minutes ago. You have the
Mm-hmm.
Moorish Science Temple of America first annual convention. For this audience, we'll say poster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago, Illinois, at Unity Hall, which is 3140 Indiana Avenue, October 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th. The annual convention is coming up next
Mm-hmm.
week, and it will be
Yeah.
in Chicago, Illinois. Let me see if I can make it a little larger. If I can't make it a little larger, what I'll do is I'll just look behind me and I'll let you know exactly some of the first 15 temples of the prophet established, right? So give me a second. So you had, of course, you had temple number one, which is in Chicago, Illinois. You had temple number two, which is in Charleston. Milwaukee was temple number three. You had Richmond, temple number six. Cleveland, temple number seven. Pine Bluff, Arkansas, which is temple number eight. Temple number 10, which is in Newark, New Jersey. Temple number 11, which is in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. Mm-hmm.
Right, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Temple number 13, which is in
In
Baltimore,
Baltimore,
Maryland,
Maryland.
established by Brother Cook Bay in 705 South Sharp Street. You had Temple number 14, which is in Petersburg, Virginia, and then you had Lansing, Michigan, which is temple number 15. And when you look at the program, if you ever get a chance to look at the actual convention program and fly, you're going to find that the Prophet Noble Drew Ali had dignitaries, he had elected officials, individuals. Exactly, it was a crazy graphic game back then. That was a good point because everything the Prophet was teaching, he was teaching in symbolism, but also he was teaching from various different perspectives. You know, so we give high honor to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali and those who have kept the doors of the Moorish Science Temple of America open. But the prophet in chapter 48, the prophet states that there's much wisdom to be learned from the descendants of Africa. There's much wisdom to be learned among the descendants of Africa till this day for the redemption of the sons of men of the love, true peace, freedom, and justice. Houston wasn't from my understanding, brother Glenn. The prophet has a charter to issue to each state throughout the United States. So there are temples that have been open since then, but the first 15 they were listed on the chart, excuse me, on the convention flyer or the convention
Mm-hmm.
poster in 1928 for that specific time. Those were the temples that the prophet Noble Drew Ali established at that time, and there were
Mm-hmm.
others as well. So. Um, how in the works did they do flies like that? That's a good question. Sheik, you want to answer the brother's question?
Man, I listen.
'Cause I'm trying to figure that out
I
too.
have I have no idea on some of the stuff that I've seen, like this poster, the Divine Constitution and Bylaws, the Circle Seven, um, or which we call the Holy Quran or the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Yeah.
Just different things that we've seen. Man, I I'm still like it amazes me. I'm like, man, and this is what helps me to come into an understanding of, like believing that or understanding and coming into the knowledge that Noble Drew Ali is a prophet, right?
So,
Because of some of the works that he did that, I mean, today we are not able to really reduplicate it, right? In the way that now this was a time where, let the truth be told, a lot of people try to say that the prophet couldn't read or whatever. So if
right.
he couldn't, how did he produce things like this, right?
Right.
And a lot of our people couldn't read at that particular point in time. This is one of the reasons why he taught according to signs and symbols as well. Um, so you look at it, even down to our charters, and it's profound, and it's also amazing, and and that's why it's good. Um, a lot of people um feel like reading, or like they see you, like you got a library, right?
Yes, sir.
And a lot of people would think that reading is like you don't have to have real world application to by things that you read.
Right.
All the nights that you had to stay up and type, write papers,
That's right.
write papers, just different things that you did, and you had to take that information that you and had to play it out in the real world. And also, you weren't always a college student, were you, Mo?
Let me kind of share something with the public.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't have a problem sharing. I'm gonna share it and be real brief with it. My wife said, well, Sister Tamika joining my wife said, I never thought about the designs of the graphics for some of the flyers and literature back then. It's truly amazing. That's right. And Brother E said the detail. Now, to your point, she literacy, right?
hmm
Public school system, K through 12, etc. I remember when I started school at Norfolk State University in Virginia, my freshman year of college, Mo, I couldn't even write a paragraph, Mo. I, my professor literally told me, she said, you don't know how to write. And I got
right,
offended. She was like, you don't know the mechanics of writing.
right,
You don't know the mechanics. So she failed me my first semester.
uh-huh,
And she said, you're not gonna pass this class until you come to this office, sit down, and learn the mechanics of writing a paper. And by the end of that semester, well, I had an A minus in her class.
hmm
Same thing happened to me
hmm
second semester when I took English 102. Failed it. And going in, she said, all right, now you got to focus on the other aspects of writing and things of that nature. And I ended up
hmm
passing it, from there. So I say all that to say, when we look at, and again, I was in college in 2000, my freshman year was 2007. So we talk
okay,
2007, 2008, not too far off, but a minute ago, right? And
uh-huh,
we look at 1928 and the fact that the Prophet Noble Dry Ali, as you just stated, he was speaking, and not just speaking, but he was making a plea and putting it out there to a people who couldn't read. Some of our people couldn't write. Some could read, some could write, but others couldn't comprehend. Some had
hmm
eyes to see, but they had eyes, but they couldn't see, and they had ears and they couldn't comprehend either, or hear or
hmm
understand what they were hearing at that time. And then others did, So the work that we see in front of us, the Prophet Noble Drew Ali did have workers in the vineyard. He had individuals who were willing to help him. Everybody, looks at the works of the prophet, but he did have a few faithful few who were able to help him and assist him. But again, these designs that you see, they came strictly from the prophet, the thought of the prophet, which was placed on him by Allah. So when I hear people, and I'm not speaking radical, they try to discredit the prophet or whatever the case may be. No, the proof is in the work. You know what I'm saying? The
right,
proof is in the work. The Moorish Science Temple of America is around to this day, and we've been around, and we're not going anywhere. And that's just what
mm,
it is. We're one of the oldest, if not the oldest, Islamic organization here in America. And the truth be told as well, many of the individuals who they credit as being the fathers of Islam here in America, they had their start and their founding in the Moorish Science Temple of America. Matter of fact, one of
hmm
them is on the flyer, but we'll get to that at a later date as well.
yeah,
Islam.
and like, man, let's see, English. Okay, so I started out because I had no clue that I was going to actually be able. I didn't even think I was going to college. So I went to a community college, which was like high school, a higher level of high school for me because it was in the neighborhood, right? And it wasn't that the teachers were not doing; it was just my mindset. And I got there, and I had to take remedial courses because here I am, a graduate from a high school, and whether I didn't pay attention or whatever the case may be, I was I had to take remedial English and I had to take remedial math.
Hmm.
And to write a paper and have a teacher put those the symbolism on your paper where you need to indent
Right,
or
right,
yeah, it takes a lot of thought to be able to sit down, like read something and then put it in your own words. And you have to be humble, and it teaches you humbleness as well. You know, because some people, they can't handle that pressure that a professor, and I've seen it. People walk out the class.
walk out
I've
the
even
class.
walked
Yeah, I'm
out.
not taking this no more.
I ain't doing right. And I praise Allah for that experience. And I didn't always have a college degree, and it's
Man,
technically it's a piece of paper,
that's right.
and it helps open up doors and things of that nature. But it's not, you know, as college students, we don't, or at least the ones that I know, right, don't go around looking at people or
Right.
thinking they know. It's
Turning their nose up
it's
at
it's
you.
an experience, and if you've never experienced it, that's because that college is not for everybody. But
Right.
it's not just about, oh, I read a book and I don't have no life living experience, because before I got into a college or whatever, um oh yeah, yeah, she Cornell.
Be
I was
coming
goofy. I was goofy on
talking about
goofy
bling
time
on.
for real.
Yeah.
Um, so all that to say, it, we are taught how, and think about this too, and I ain't gonna belabor the point. Man, they ain't had no internet system. They had to go into the library,
Libraries, man.
look at the card catalog system,
I'm
right?
trying to,
Which
yeah.
is
Wow.
that's isn't that called the Dewey
Dewey
Decimal System?
Decimal System, man. Yeah.
Man, I still haven't mastered that yet.
Yeah.
But they had to look in the stacks, um, look for books, and and they had to use a typewriter and a number of other different things that they
Encyclopedia.
utilized.
Come on.
And I'm saying, man, it was difficult for me to use the computer, and I had like little things like
Yeah,
encyclopedias, and
Barnes and Noble. They ain't had Barnes and Noble. Come on,
man,
man.
no, man, it's like
Right.
so. I I commend those who graduated and who obtained degrees before the computer, before the advent of the desktop or the laptop.
Right.
Because I don't know if I I don't know. I look at it today and I'm
Tough
like,
one,
man,
man.
how did they do it?
Right.
How did they do it? Yeah,
Right. Card catalog.
yeah. The
That's right.
card catalog system. That's right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Praise
Praise
Allah.
Allah.
Yeah, they had something else for
Mm-hmm.
sure. All right. So we're going to continue with chapter 48 and then we're going to wrap it up. We're almost finished. Again, we appreciate everyone in the chat. No typewriter. That's what I thought. I thought it wasn't no
It
typewriter.
wasn't no time. Well,
Yeah.
look, thank you for that. I didn't know that.
That's what I figured. I figured it was no
Hold
typewriter.
on.
I thought, wait a minute.
Hold on. The prophet
Yeah,
secretary
because he had a
sitting
print press. I was about to say, we got to
at
check
the
that one,
desk.
man.
There's a
We got
typewriter
to
out
check
there.
that. I think they had, yeah, I think East 49, I think they had a typewriter, man. But we're going to check that one. We're going to check it. But we having fun tonight, Moors. Wow. Right at 3023 said I did my college application on a typewriter. Praise
Wow,
Allah. 2000. Yeah, that's about right. That's
man,
about
that's a
right.
blessing.
That's about right. Moors, we had the right sense. These Moors is funny. All right, let's keep it going, right? Yeah. Laugh is good, Moors.
That's right.
It's good. The prophet says, verse 6, he says, we as a clean and pure nation, descending from the inhabitants of Africa, do not desire to amalgamate or marry into the families of the pale skinned nations of Europe, neither serve the gods of their religion, because our forefathers are the true and divine founders of the first religious creed for the redemption and salvation of mankind on earth. Therefore, we are returning the church and Christianity back to the European nations, as it was prepared by their forefathers for their earthly salvation, while we, the Moorish Americans, are returning to Islam, which was founded by our forefathers for our earthly and divine salvation. She want to hit to those points while I pull up the next one. I'll get through it.
Yeah. So what the prophet is teaching us. we're here. This is a temporal world, and most religious um sects or denominations teach the same thing that we teach. This is a temporal world, and we working on making a homeward journey
That's
to
right.
get back to Allah, because this is not truly not our original home.
That's right.
So, but we do have the ability to um make this place that's temporal be the way that we would want it, such as a heaven, right? Why do I say this? We see um the our ancestors who built the Great Pyramids of Giza, various other places that we still talk about today. Um, so it's very doable. However, you have to have a certain thought process to be able to create and be the change that you want to see.
That's
So,
right.
um, once again, we bringing it out the sky, and it's not, this. Ooh, if I don't do the yeah, if you don't do the right thing, the effect is you gonna get what you give out.
You reap what you
You
sow.
understand what I'm saying? Um, so it's um, if you want certain results, you're gonna have to put certain things or do certain things for it to be able to manifest itself. And I think that's a lesson all of us are learning. No matter what religion, how old you are, we all are continuing to develop and grow. And that's what it's really all about, for real.
Islamism. Well said. And when we look at it, right, we see the word amalgamate, and we know, a lot of people look at amalgamate as, physical activities,
Hmm.
keeping the G rated, sexual activity, etc. But you gotta remember, we're talking about amalgamation in that aspect too, physical. But also, when the prophet says we desire not to amalgamate, amalgamation deals with alchemy, which was one of the sciences, or one of the sciences that our ancestors actually studied, turning base metals into gold, right,
Hmm.
or silver, etc., to find metals, etc. But when you also look at amalgamate, amalgamate deals with the thought process and pattern as well. The prophet was trying to get us out of a Eurocentric mindset. And if you look at the forerunner, Brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and brothers like Deuce Muhammad Ali, they were trying to take our people out of the colonial mindset of being
Hmm.
subservient to European customs, carnal customs, and things of that nature. Now, the next document that I want to share with everyone is actually a document I got from my grandmother, and may the great God of love be pleased with her. It's a document. It's actually coming from a book, and she had it years ago. She actually got it when she was younger, and it's called A History of the Christian Church. Now, we're not, again, disclaimer, we're not beating up on our brothers and sisters who are Christians. We're not
Hmm.
browbeating, etc. And I'm going to do a little bit of, how can I do it? Compare and contrast,
Hmm.
because what you're going to see right here, you're going to see a document that's coming from a Christian perspective, but it's giving a historical outline of some of the things that was happening in the area of Asia, what they call the Orient,
Hmm.
right? So let's get on to it. All right, so let me go in a little bit. All right, so what you see right here, and we're not backtracking, we're just going to we're all in chapter 47. You see a map. Now, there's a word that was used at this time. It was called Mohammedan. Now, of course, this word, for many in the Muslim world, it's an antiquated word, but it was ultimately used as those who were following Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, right? Because for whatever reason, Europeans, they attributed Islam as being the faith of Muhammad, which Muhammad was a follower of Islam. He is a true and divine prophet of Islam. However, Islam was not named after Muhammad, but
Right.
for whatever reason, they tried to label it or identify it as Mohammedans, right?
It's much older than Muhammad.
That's right. Much older than Muhammad. Islam is much older than Muhammad. All right. So it says, and again, this is from their perspective, and the Orient destruction was more complete because the power of the church was broken and the cross was supplanted by the crescent, the standard of Mohammedanism or Mohammedism. In the 7th century, a great wave of Semitic people, the Mohammedans, started in Arabia, swept rapidly over Syria, Palestine, Egypt, and Persia from 633 to 651 AD, destroying everything in its wake. Now we're going to see the compare and contrast, right? It says twice the Mohammedans laid siege to Constantinople, and that's Istanbul, it's in Turkey, from 669 to 676 into 717 to 718, but without success. In 707, they conquered North Africa, and in 711, so when you're dealing with 711 to 1492, you're talking about the Moorish Empire, or Moorish Americans. You're talking about the individuals who came from those areas, right? And there's in that same encyclopedia I read earlier, it states that when you're dealing with the Moors, it's talking specifically about those who came from Mauritania, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something that they don't really make reference to. We constantly hear about Morocco, so on and
Morocco.
so forth, but you really want to study and investigate Mauritania. It says in the Great Battle of Toros in 732, Charles Martel, and let me
Mm-hmm.
minimize this because when you get with Charles Martel, you're dealing with the individual who was really responsible for kind of bringing things to a head for the Christians, right? Allowing the Christians to get some sort of footing, so to speak. All right, so let's go there. All right, pulling it up now. Thank you for being patient. This is the second page right here. All right, let me rule in. And I'm not going to go through all of this. It says, defeated the Mohammedans and saved Western civilization. We're going to get into this. It says the Mohammedans robbed the Greeks of their marvelous vitality and stifled their genius. Greek culture was suppressed and trampled underfoot while the Saracenic civilizations was imposed upon the subdued peoples. Now, the reason why I'm sharing this, right? This is a book that was circulated. And Sheik, you from West Baltimore. I'm from West Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
So I know you're familiar with Amsterdam and Poplar Grove. You ever heard of Rehoboth Church over there, Emerson and Poplar Grove? It's like right there where the bread factory used to be.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, so this is a book that they had to actually go through and study. And I mean, I'm talking about Asiatics, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the early 1900s, they had to go through this book and they had to study the introduction to the Christian church in order to become ministers. So this is a minister book that they had to study at that time, right? It
Mm-hmm.
says this new civilization possessed considerable vitality, being remarkable for its development of mathematics, natural science, and philosophy. That sounds familiar. The Saracenic civilization, so when they say Saracenic, they're talking about Muslim, was also a powerful factor in the formation of scholasticism, meaning universities.
Mm-hmm.
But it also was, after all, a culture inferior to the Hellenic. Hellenic. So they
Yeah.
always make a reference to the Greeks, right? They're trying to
Mm-hmm.
put and say, oh, the Greeks had better civilization. Well, if they had it, it would have survived. But you're going to see who actually preserved some of it in a minute. And medieval Europe had to free itself from the grip that it could experience the Renaissance, Reformation, and development of the modern mind. Now, the reason why I wanted to read this, right, is because when you're dealing with the Renaissance, Reformation, and development of the mind, those things wouldn't have came about if it wasn't for our foreparents. Those things wouldn't have came about if it wasn't for the Muslims. And the way we can prove that in various different documents. But the Prophet Noble Drali, he gives us a couple of documents, but one document in particular is Moorish Leaders' Historical Message to America.
Mm-hmm.
And in this document, which I'm pulling up now, you're going to see a parallel, but then you're also going to see a contrast as well, where the prophet outlines what was going on during that time. Let me pull it up. Okay, here we go. All right. So getting to the Moorish science of America, the prophet says, and again, the word Mohammedan is not, in this instance, it's not to be offensive. It's just, this is the word at the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says the Mohammedan religion is the least appreciated and probably the most misunderstood of the world's religions. This is especially true in our Western world. Try to understand what Mohammedanism stands for of some things that has contributed to the world. Muhammad was the founder of the Mohammedan religion. It originated 13 centuries ago on the Arabian Peninsula, where the streams of commerce and culture met and mangled in the Middle Ages, where the markets of exchange were stationed for treasures of India and the products of the Mediterranean coast. There, this religion was established in an unprecedented short period of 20 years, and unlike many other religions, without the aid of any royal patronage and support. Buddhism had its Ahsoka, Judaism is Joshua, Christianity is Constantine. So Constantine is the founder of Christianity. But Mohammedanism had no person of royal rank and power to assist in this establishment and its spread. Today, this religion, and this is at that time, is acknowledged by nearly 250 million souls and extends over an area equal to one third of the globe. From Arabia, it spread eastward over to Persia, to Turkestan, Afghanistan, westward across Assyria, Asia Minor, Turkey, southward to Africa, covering more than half of that continent. It has found its way to India and beyond to the islands of Sumatra, Java, Borneo. All right. It says, to the early representatives of this faith, you good, Sheik?
I'm good.
Okay. To the early representatives of this faith, the world is indebted incalculably great. For it was they who transmitted the treasures of Greek literature from the Middle Ages to the Renaissance. They who originated the graceful forms of the Taj Mahal and the Alhambra are the most famous examples. It was they who contributed to the sciences of algebra, chemistry, astronomy, and medicine. They who dilated the Saracen Empire with universities. And I'm gonna go down, and then we're gonna move forward. And we almost wrapping it up, y'all. But I want to make this point clear so we ain't confused on anything. All right, here we go. Let me zoom in for everybody. Those who built universities, talking about the Muslims, the Moors, and who built at Baghdad and Cairo the most renowned universities of the world during the centuries of ecclesiastical despotism. That means when the church was destroying stuff, when they were hiding history, and everybody heard about it, the fact of what's happening, over
Hmm.
in, Vatican, etc., and things being in the vaults. These things aren't speculations. These are things that have actually been unearthed. You even see what happened over in Russia early in the year,
Hmm.
with them coming out with that. So just to point that point out, when the Christian church suppressed all intellectual activities, save those that were theological, causing the talent that reproduces to supplant the genius that creates, Mohammedans did all in their power to encourage and stimulate research in every branch of human inquiry. The Moors or Mohammedans added to the beauty and grandeur of Spain for centuries. Art, science, literature, and chivalry flourished among them, while the rest of Europe was sunk into the gloom of the Dark Ages. The Moors were the most ingenious and industrious of the subjects of Spain. Their expulsion from Spain in 1610 was one of the chief causes of the decadence of that country, for both agriculture and industry fell into decay after their departure. And we can stop right there. Go ahead, Sheik.
Yeah. So you know, we see what it was, and when we go into Europe and our ancestors took those individuals out of the dark ages and so on and so forth. So
Right.
man, it's it's a blessing.
That's right.
Um and history is it's like throwing a rock into water,
Hmm.
and when you throw that rock, it sends out ripples. So different people look at it from different perspectives. But we praise Allah for the Prophet Noble Ali for giving us or acting as a guide to let us know where our stance and our ancestor stance in history, and it just shows us our greatness of what we can be and what we have been in the past. Because without a doubt or contradiction, what our ancient forefathers were, we are today without a doubt or contradiction.
That's right.
So
Praise
praise
Allah.
Allah.
And the end of the chapter goes and follows as such. Let me go pull it back up. And prayers, sending a prayer to the brothers and sisters in Mexico.
Praise the Lord.
Chicanel, I didn't even know about that. There's so many things happening. You got,
Man.
and Chicanel said there's a floods. My apology, tongue tied, it's late. In Acapulco, and then also in Wyoming, they just had like this mass fire. Like it's like I don't know if it's an elk fire or something of that
Hmm.
nature, but it
Mm.
hasn't been covered at all by the news. And then
Hmm.
also prayers for the brothers and sisters in Florida, all
Yeah,
throughout the
Florida.
South,
Yeah, I heard about that.
and all throughout the South. We send in prayers and thoughts to our brothers and sisters in the deep South as well, because it's real. It's real right now, man. It's
Oh yeah,
real.
yeah. We need to do a show on a few things too.
Hey, man.
So yeah,
Yeah,
for people preparedness, people getting prepared.
yeah. Preparation. Making sure you stocking up on essential items, things of that nature. Because it's getting real out here. So verse 9 reads. Covenant of the great God Allah, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the earth land which the Lord thy God Allah hath given thee. Come, all you Asiatic of America, and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the families of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets. So, praise Allah for Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because one thing the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has taught us, and he still teaches us, and I say still teach, people say that sounds crazy, but the Prophet Noble Drew Ali is much alive, right? Much alive in the hearts and minds of us, who continue to read the Prophet Noble Drew Ali's works and apply them to our lives. But the Prophet's taught us not to discriminate against our brothers and sisters, and not to look
Hmm.
at the European as being an adversary, but just knowing that, every nation has the ability and the right to worship under their own vine fig tree and be respected as such as well. So praise Allah.
So
That's right.
praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Yeah. Well, we hope that some people got some a better understanding of what the end of time and the fulfilling of the prophecies is,
That's right.
and just keep tuning in, uh, and viewing older shows or the older shows, because what you'll see is that some of the older shows are going to be very much so interconnected with the newer shows that we do. And it's not like we don't have topics to cover. We have tons of stuff. It's just that we like to give people time to, like let things marinate and you
Catch
know
up a little bit.
and catch up, and you know uh so that's how we do things. And we appreciate all our viewers. We don't do this for views.
Right.
We do it for those who want to learn, who can have an open mind, and who are willing to be solution oriented thinkers and to be able to help um push our people in general forward, no matter what your denomination or uh is, or whatever the case may be. We can share, and we hope that some of the information that you might have that could assist us, you share that with us as well.
That's right. Each
So
one
praise
teach
the
one.
Lord.
So praise Allah. We won't be live next week because, as we mentioned before, next week will be the national convention in Chicago, Illinois, from the 15th to the 20th of 2024. So we will be coming back to you the following week with some segments, various different segments. Again, as Sheik mentioned, we don't do it for views, but we definitely appreciate, the positive feedback, the positive comments on YouTube. We know we have a lot of followers on Facebook, but if you want to go over to YouTube as well and subscribe, type in Moorish Sense Channel and we'll pop up. You can watch our early episodes. We've been doing this since I want to say 2017, late 2017. So we have old episodes on the Moorish Sense Channel. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, leave a chat. If you want to come on the show, by all means, come with some substance, come to the discussion. Again, we do this because we love the Moorish Science Temple of America. It has changed our lives greatly and tremendously, and we know we can learn from one another. So with that being said, it's late. We got families to tend to. Uh,
Yeah.
and tomorrow's Holy Day. If you're in the Baltimore metropolitan area, come on out to the Moorish Science Temple of America. That's Temple number 13, located at 1055 North Milton Avenue. Our hours are 8 to 10 on Fridays, from 12 to 2 on Sundays. We won't be open next week because Chicago is the place that
Oh,
majority will be.
yeah. I plan to open up though. I
Oh,
plan to open the
there
temple
we
up.
go. There we go.
Yeah.
So we'll be open. We'll be open. So
Every day at least for between about between 5 to 7 hours.
praise the Lord.
Um, and people can come through, um,
Stop that.
ask questions, or just fellowship a little
That's
bit.
right. That's right.
I might even have some light snacks or something like that there.
Yeah. All
So
healthy. All healthy
yeah,
foods, right?
yeah,
And
healthy
then
foods.
you also
Yeah.
have our sister temple on the west side. That's 2900 Pressman Street under the leadership of Grand Sheik Eric Thompson Bay. Same time, 8 to 10, 12 to 2. Come on out. Come on out to a holy day, Friday, Sunday
Hmm.
school. Come on out with your questions and answers as
Yeah,
well.
and we'll post the times uh, that we'll be, that the temple will be open. Yep, during the convention.
That's right.
Yeah, praise the Lord.
To Sheikah Neil, praise Allah. How can you be more? How can you be more? So brother Glenn, brother Glenn is a good brother. Brother Glenn said, "How can you be Moorish?" He want to know that shit.
Okay, so there's a specific process, brother Glenn. I know you live in
Houston.
Houston,
Hmm.
right? Let us build a rapport with you, um, and we will see what it is that we can do to potentially come to you, um, and assist you. You have to do it via temple, right? Uh, and beware of those who are talking about they're selling packages, or that you can send letters in to the judge, and it doesn't work like that,
Yeah, we
right?
talked about it.
There,
Me and brother Glenn talked
there's a
about it. Yeah,
specific system that the Prophet Noble Ali put in place
that's right.
where um, you come to a temple, and once you have attended a certain amount of meetings, you come to the decision if this is something that you want to do or be a part of. Um, and what I mean, want to do and be a part of it, to whom much is given, much is required, right? So we're not just a revolving door organization. We are an organization. We've been through a lot, and we're in the process of sort of kind of like rebuilding in a sense, but not really. Um, So we're looking for people who are, going to bring their best character, put their best foot forward, um, be open minded and willing to, develop into their best self and help others to develop into their best self. And then we have a ceremony that you go through, and the ceremony it says men come to Allah through ceremonies and form, and the ceremony is sacred to us. And this is where um, there's a particular situation that takes place where you are issued your tribal name, Il or Bay. Okay, and the one who is responsible for issuing that name is the name giver. And it doesn't come through just picking up and saying, "Oh, I'm this," or "I'm
Right.
that," or using both tribal names, if you will. It's a whole particular process. So, brother Glenn, let us develop a rapport so that we can get you onto the road of being able to take you through this particular ceremony. And we will have the option via uh, online as a member because if it's a temple not in your city, we'll have the option for, people to be able to attend their meetings via online. So Brother Glenn, let's build a rapport and, let's see how we can get some things done. If that's okay with you, if you could be just a tad bit patient with us and let us help you, get to the point to where you want to be at. And I did see it was somebody else who mentioned
It was a brother.
who asked a
The
similar
same
question earlier.
Yeah, it was brother. I think brother name was brother Antoine, brother Adrian. So he asked the same
Okay.
question as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I want to just not override anything you say.
No,
So
no, no.
whatever it
It's on.
says,
Go ahead.
so me and brother Glenn, I've been communicating with brother Glenn for about a year now, right?
Uh huh.
Um, brother Glenn, good brother. Yeah, there are temples out in Houston. We did talk about that. Um, so, Brother Glenn, ultimately, you're not becoming or being a Moorish, but you're proclaiming your nationality.
Hmm.
You are, in fact, of Moorish descent, but you want to come through um, the more by way of the Moorish Science Temple of America. You want to go to your nearest legally and lawfully chartered Moorish Science Temple of America. As Sheikh Balans Bey stated earlier, you don't want to getting caught up in the act of buying fake nationality packages, getting caught up with individuals who, we see the stuff that's online, and if you just, if you type it in, you'll see some of the things that I'm talking about. I'm not to belabor that point, but the Moorish Americans, we're not separate and distinct from others in the Muslim or Muslim community. It's both one and the same. We are in fact Muslims, just like others in the Muslim community as well. But we are Moorish American Muslims, So that's how you become one. You visit your nearest Moorish Science Temple of America. And you also, if again, as the Sheikh stated earlier, continue to build that rapport, we'll help you out along the way. And you know, so
Praise
that's,
the Lord.
that's it. Praise Allah. All right. So with that being said, because we're going into the next day, it's almost the 11th, but all is well. We're going to close out with the Moorish American prayer, and we'll be back with you all the following week. Praise Allah.
Islam. Praise the Lord. Islam.
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 Allah, the Father of the universe,
Allah, the Father of the universe,
Father of love,
Father of love,
truth,
truth,
peace,
peace,
freedom,
freedom,
and justice.
and justice.
Allah is my protector,
Allah is my protector,
my guide,
my guide,
and my salvation
and my salvation
by night
by night
and by day
and by day
through his holy prophet,
through his holy prophet,
Drew Ali.
Drew Ali.
Amen.
Amen.
Islam.
Islam. Peace, everybody.
Praise